Okay, so Prospero is the main character of the play who has very powerful magic, which leaves him to feel that he's better than others, and he puts himself on like a high horse, which makes him think that he can like lie and cheat to others. However, he realizes the wrongs in his ways, showing that he's really a more sympathetic character who is just corrupt by his brother and the absolute power that he was able to gain from the magic. And he was also seen as very ambitious, as you can tell that his passion to get like knowledge is what gets him into the trouble, which is what starts the play, which gives his brother a chance to rise up. His magical powers leave him very powerful, which loses that sympathy. However, you can see the sympathy return once he realizes how bad he was doing. And then you can also tell that he is a very angry man who is very like proud of his abilities. As you can see when Ariel reminds him of what his promise was to help people, he burst into a fury and threatens who he was trying to help. He is very unpleasant in treating things such as Ferdinand, and also however, despite his rough exterior, it is seen that the play is centered around him, and the change of his character from being a more egotistical maniac into a more sympathetic, guilt-driven person who changes himself entirely. And his love for his daughter is what drives him to become that sympathetic person. Okay.
Victoria, you go.
I also agree with what you're saying. So I feel like at the beginning, Anna uses his magic as a trophy or like a defense of saying, "Oh, I'm greater and I'm more powerful than you." And I also feel like his daughter is the reason why he changed to the end, as more sympathetic and forgiving, and then he realized his wrongdoing. So I think that's what made him change.
Yeah, I agree that he has become more sympathetic towards the end because he obviously cares about his daughter. And
I also agree with that. I feel like Prospero starts off trying to justify his actions and everything, like he has a backstory behind it, he's justified everything. And at the end, like in the epilogue of this story, he goes and he apologizes and he's like, "Forgive me for everything I've done wrong." And like his exact words are, "As you from crimes would pardon to be." So he's asking for pardon and everything. And I feel like that repentant nature at the end of the story is probably where Prospero becomes a character you can relate to, like someone who does something wrong and then like repents at the end when they've realized it. You wrap up. 1 minute.
Wrap up? So all in all, Prospero is a very proud character, very ambitious and egotistical. Okay. Until he realizes, as he's like spending time with his daughter, he realizes how bad of a person the magic has made him become, and that flimsy shield that he uses as magic fades away, and he reveals his sympathetic self to others, as you can see in his speech near the end of the book and the last 2 acts.
Okay, cut.
this story always leads to a good ending for the protagonist. One example is that Antonio and Sebastian were about to succeed with their plan to kill Gonzalo, but Ariel woke him up by singing. There was a quote, it was, "If of life you keep a care, shake off slumber and be weary. Awake, awake." So they did not murder Gonzalo because Ariel was singing and it woke him up. Another example is that Caliban and Stefano were planning to murder Prospero, but Prospero knew that, so he was never in like grave danger throughout the story because he knew most about the situation. And Prospero also, he gets his happy ending when he got his title of Duke back, while the antagonist did not get their
I agree that this story had a happy ending. It's kind of like a comedy, so you know, supposed to make you laugh a little. Also, I think that the antagonist did sort of get a happy ending because, if I remember, Alonso did find out that his son Ferdinand was indeed alive because he thought he was dead from the shipwreck since they were separated.
Right. Yeah, this story does actually have a happy ending, as well as the way that the characters, like each character may have like a situation and it kind of like resolved itself as the story went on. Like Miranda fell in love, like Alonso's son is still alive. Prospero becomes not a terrible person at the end of the book. So yeah, I do the end of the story, and as it goes along, all of the plot points like tie up and they resolve themselves, and it becomes like, again, a happy ending, because Shakespeare had tragedies which weren't a happy ending, and this one, I believe, is a comedy. So that's why the characters end up in love, and it's happily ever after. And, you know. Your turn.
Okay. I agree with what you're saying at the end of the play as being a happy ending, which is a far contrast to Shakespeare's other plays. But also, it kind of ends on a bittersweet note as it ends as the story, well, quote unquote, began, which kind of makes it seem like it could happen again, even though it can't. It feels like it's kind of a loop, and that could just be me, but that's what I thought. Okay. Did that make sense?
Well, in conclusion, the story mostly ends in a happy ending for Prospero and Miranda and Ferdinand and the good characters.
Okay, my turn. Oh, great.
Okay, Ferdinand.
Okay, so I feel like Ferdinand is a really important character for the plot in general, because without him being in the shipwreck and everything, and without him being a son to Alonso, Prospero wouldn't have been able to manipulate them, because Prospero kind of jails Ferdinand after the shipwreck, after they encountered each other. And if he wasn't able to find it, there wouldn't be a way to manipulate Alonso and Antonio at the end, where he was able to achieve back his title, the Duke of Milan. And in doing so, it also affected other characters like Miranda as they fell in love, and that also prompted Prospero for his kind of like character change towards the end, and also him being able to relate to Alonso by lying.
Yeah, I agree, because Ferdinand, without him, the story would have been different, because he affected Prospero's, like, his characteristic, and that the love for Miranda.
Okay. I felt like Ferdinand is an integral part of the play, as he plays the romantic love interest, and he is what kind of makes the comedy. Like how Mr. Wright said that every comedy has a marriage in it. Without Ferdinand, it technically wouldn't be a Shakespearean comedy, as it kind of ties it together, creates the comedic element of the story. Even if one can look and say that he isn't the most important character, since in reality he doesn't really do much except for marry Miranda. Okay. But however, he is what creates all of the scenarios and situations that are the comedy elements.
Right. So Ferdinand to me was an interesting character, partially because he was the son of, an enemy of Prospero at the beginning, because Alonso did help usurp Prospero's position. And I feel like it's because of this that how it's because of this how Prospero's daughter and Alonso's son, I like how Shakespeare made it so that they fell in love, and then Prospero softens up to Ferdinand around, I believe, near the end, but not all the way. Like Prospero softens up. Yeah, Prospero softens up to Ferdinand, and I feel like that was a very an important point of the story, because it makes Prospero, it gives him more empathy as a character.
Yeah, and he sees how Ferdinand is really in love and everything. So I think we can all agree that he's a very vital character for the plot and the resolution for this story.
So, in the book The Tempest, there's a theme of star-crossed lovers, which again Shakespeare has in quite a few of his books, most notably Romeo and Juliet. So what happens in this story is Ferdinand and Miranda. So Ferdinand is the son of Alonso, who collaborated with Antonio, Prospero's brother, to usurp Prospero from his position as the Duke of Milan. And Miranda, which is Prospero's daughter. So evidently their parents are not the best friends of each other, especially not throughout the first parts of the book. And so Ferdinand and Miranda fall in love, to the immense chagrin of the character Prospero, obviously. And I'm also certain that should Alonso have been made aware that Ferdinand was alive, or even if Ferdinand and Miranda were, in a relationship or whatever, he would have acted equally as horrified and extremely upset, which I can understand. So this thing of them trying to be in love and then Prospero constantly saying, no, you can't ever talk to him again, or doing other stuff like that, also adds into, this theme Shakespeare has going on about star-crossed lovers, and it's another way to add a depth of, another plot point and another depth point in the story. So we have not only Prospero's feud against the other people and all that magic, we also have the other additional plot point of Ferdinand and Miranda trying to like each other, but they can't. Until the end, which is a happy ending. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a parallel to Romeo and Juliet, in which there is the two quote-unquote star-crossed lovers, like you said. However, the main difference from Romeo and Juliet, although it's a supposedly impossible relation, it actually ends up well for them, and yeah.
I also agree, it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, but I feel like also if their parents found out that they were in love before they made up at the end, it would have totally changed their love story kind of to Romeo and Juliet. But since they resolved their problems at the end, I feel like they were okay with it.
I agree that the characters would have reacted differently if the different situation happened between Ferdinand.
Right. So, in conclusion, essentially, Ferdinand and Miranda's love in the story The Tempest is a parallel, like he said, to Romeo and Juliet's plot, but the distinct difference between them is that A, this is a Shakespeare comedy, not a tragedy, and thank God for that. It's also the fact that both of the parents did not know beforehand, because then it would have been so much worse. And again, how this Shakespeare deliberately wrote this story to wrap up to have a happy ending. So he knew from the beginning he'd make it happier. Otherwise he would have made both of the parents know. So yeah, that's how the plot leads into Shakespeare's act of writing as cool.